Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we are reviewing a stockbroker from the UK called Freetrade. So just for absolute clarity, while I am a very small investor in this product, I'm nevertheless going to give you an honest and objective review. So this is the service in question, and by their name you can put the picture in that you can trade for free with them, and you would be right that is how it works. So they're authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK. They have a very nice mobile phone app available on both the App Store and Google Play, and the idea is you can make commission-free instant orders on the US, UK stocks and the ETFs that they offer. So far so good. They have fast, friendly support. I've only ever had to deal with them, because when I was setting up the account, and I didn't have any issues setting up the account. And for people particularly living in the UK, you can have an individual savings account, a tax sheltered account that you can save up to £20,000 per year in with these people. So far so good. So they have 850 odd stocks and ETFs, so a good wide range of what you can invest in. And I follow these people on Twitter, and they seem to add new stocks and ETFs every week, so there is a good amount of them there. And what I like is there's a nice publicly accessible Google Docs document with the ISIN, so it's very transparent, very clear what's going on. So in terms of availability, they're obviously aimed at the UK, and it's made in the UK, made with donuts in London. And they also have it in beta at the moment for residents of Ireland, the Netherlands, France and Germany, and that's how I'm using the app at the moment. I understand that their roadmap is to go wider and launch across Europe. So in terms of pricing, so free trades, free basic account, free exit fees. So quite impressive. They do clarify that if UK residents open an ISA account with them, it's £3 per month, and where there is foreign exchange, they have a surcharge of 0.45% on top of it. So you'll find between this plus this is the principal place where they make their money. And if you send a bank transfer out for the same day, you're charged £5. If you can accept a bit of a delay, it's free. So they do make a point about this free trade alpha service coming soon, and if you read through their terms and conditions, you do infer that there will be a fee for the use of that service. So I would suspect that you might have just you'll see it when we get through the walk through the app, but I'd say that you have a different arrangement for making trades and things like that. And the other thing to make note of is the custodian situation. They make a point that your securities are held in the custodian, and if there are corporate actions, for example voting on proposals or anything like that, the custodian has no obligation to get in touch with you. But I must say, when you do receive dividends, the app notifies you very well to let you know there's a dividend waiting for you. So in practice it seems to work fine. Something with these commission-free brokers of late, they make the point that you don't pay fees when you make a transaction. So how do they make their money? So what we have seen in the past is typically they charge a premium on the foreign exchange fee. We saw that. They try to upsell on to a different service. So we can see that Freetrade are talking about doing an alpha product. They're doing an ISA for people in the UK. One of the ways that these services make their money is they have specific ETFs that they offer you, which would probably not be the cheapest ETF, the cheapest way to buy a fund that tracks, for example, the Standard & Poor's 500. It might be a more expensive one, and they get a fee from the ETF provider. Another way is when you execute a trade, you don't necessarily get things at the very best price. But from reading through this order execution policy, I can find no evidence that Freetrade are doing that. They make it clear that while things can fluctuate. It's due to the nature of it's a market. It's always in flux, and they make absolutely no allusion to any sort of them profiting through making trades. So that's very reassuring to see. And in terms of who Freetrade are, so they report 150,000 customers, which is actually quite a large number if you think about it. Regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, they're linked in with the London Stock Exchange, and all free trade accounts are covered by the UK Financial Services Compensation Scheme. So these are all the prerequisites that you would really want in a stock trading account. And in terms of where they store your stock, as mentioned, there's a custodian and there's nominee accounts, but you can also see that the stocks and ETFs are held in Crest, which many UK and Ireland brokers have been using for the past decade since electronic share ownership came in. Crest has been the scheme that has kept a lid on that. So this is all proper kosher stuff. So that's a brief overview of the Freetrade service. Let's have a quick look at the Freetrade app. Now for a quick run through of the Freetrade app. So I'll just load it up here on my mobile and you click into it, and I'm on a more modern Android phone. Oh no, you do pin code on this one here. So straight away it presents you an image of your portfolio. You can see that I have £225.73 in it, and it reminds me quite helpfully that I'm up by £26.33 since I began investing. My book is, no, I'm not going to plug any books or anything like that. So it gives you a nice little chart of how you got on a day-to-day basis, 7 days, 1 month, max time period. So you can see obviously this little kick at the start is when I deposited originally, and the gradual up and down. And down below it lists the individual stocks and shares that one is invested in. So you can see I have £74 in a Stocks Europe 600 ETF. I have 18 shares of Tesco, and I have actually Europe Smallco, whatever that might be. That was a free share that I got for signing up with Freetrade. So when you sign up, I think using someone's invite code, I'll share mine in the description, both you and the person signing up get a free random stock, which is actually a pretty cool idea, I have to say. You can click into any of these things and you can get details on what's going on. You can see how the individual stock is going, and you can sell it or you can buy more. You then have your insights. So it gives you kind of an overview of your portfolio, and you can see that I'm broken down. 52% is in stock, 48% is in cash, and I've nothing in either commodities or bonds because I'm not 50 years old. You then can look at what sectors you're in, and well, I'm in other and food and drink, which is where I want to be. You can then go to the Discover tab, and this is where if you know what you're looking for, you can click up here and you can search for what you're looking for. So imagine I'm looking for Euro Stocks 50. Oh wait, I must use a space. And it immediately presents me with two different ETFs I can buy. I can either buy an iShares one or a Vanguard one, and what the prices are there. And you can click in to any of these individual ones. And what I like about this view when you're looking at ETFs is you get more information on the individual ETF, including the KID being front and center. So it downloaded it. So if I click into this, and here it is, it presents to me the KID as a nice PDF, and you can see all of the important stuff that you need to see on it. Crucially, you can see what the ongoing charges are, entry, exits, performance fee. It's all very straightforward. And the fact that this is its ISIN. So I appreciate that hugely about Freetrade, that they give the standardized information to you in an easy to understand format. And you can click in, you can get information on what the costs and charges are. So it's going to try to download something else here, and it just makes it clear what the charges are. And they give a nice explanation of what's going on. So it's very nice to just illustrate this to you. And then when you go back to the app, what you can do then is you can click buy. So imagine I wanted to buy some euro stocks. So I have £108 available, and imagine if I want to set aside 5 shares. So if I do 110, oh, excuse me, 108, they estimate that they'll be able to get me 5 complete shares. Now they do fractional shares in some cases, not every, but in this case they are doing, they seem to be doing full shares. And you can see that this is a basic order, and they will place it tomorrow after 3 p.m. and the trades is for free. So when the stock market is closed, you go into a queue and you'll buy it tomorrow, and they will endeavor to get you as much as possible based on your limit price there. And they may talk about fill or kill. So, you know, if you don't get everything, you get nothing, and things like that. When you buy and sell, when the market is open, it behaves a bit differently. It does an instant trade based on the spot price of, based on the market price of whatever instrument it is you're buying. So there can be fluctuations, so you'll get an indicative indication of what's going on. It could be a bit higher, it could be a bit lower. There is no ability to set limits as such, so it's maybe a bit of a limitation, but I wouldn't be surprised if their alpha product that's coming out has a bit more granularity so that you can be a bit more precise about what you buy. So I can just place this here, review order, total costs is this based on the latest share price, and that's pretty much it. And you have to do your PIN code again, sending order, and you can cancel the order anytime up until then. Done. So that's pretty straightforward. And if you go back, you can see that they have your recently viewed ones. So I'm very interested in global clean energy. Actually, that was one I just sold and made a profit on. And they highlight recent additions to their stable of available securities. Canadian companies, green energy, very in vogue at the moment for good reasons. New ETFs that they've added because everyone's into passive investing now. New UK stocks, breakdown by sectors. So it's a walled garden of what's available to you, but that's not such a bad thing. And as we could see, they've like 1,200, 1,300 different securities you can buy. So it is a good wide range. What I haven't tested them is to see what if I want something that isn't here. So I'm taking my Euro stocks. There are probably cheaper providers than iShares and Vanguard, not by much, but nevertheless, I'd say you could get it a bit cheaper with someone else. So I would be curious how quickly they add new ones and what's their criteria for adding new things, and can people suggest it. I know with my old school Irish stockbrokers who used to charge me, I don't know, £100 per year on fees, they were very acquiescent to the concept of suggesting stocks for them to add to their platform. Whereas here, I don't know how happy they are to do that. But either way, you can see everything, and they have their own nice little, if you click in, description, streaming video to Adobe Photoshop. So, and they can be a bit funny about what they put into these business software. That's not very funny. Apple, iPhones. Amazon is a Seattle bookshop. You then have your activity tab, so it tells you what you've been doing over time, and you can also then get statements on what you do. And it just gives a nice statement of activity on your account for that month, which will be handy at the end of the year when you're trying to work out your tax obligations. They won't do anything to sort out your tax obligations on the normal account, but it's obviously for people in the UK with the ISA, you are tax sheltered there. and you can see that I had some dividend income from Tesco, £1.17, so that went into my account. And then you have the account itself, and tells you how much you have available, how much you can have reserved, what your linked bank account is. Now, as mentioned, I'm on their beta product at the moment, so there's a particular nuance. I have to upload money via, or transfer money in via TransferWise specifically. Handily, I already had a TransferWise account, links in the description. So yeah, that's a very brief overview of the Freetrade product. So what are my thoughts on the Freetrade service? So in the positives, I like the fact it's free. Goes without saying. It seems very simple to use. I certainly had zero mental labor in figuring out how to buy and sell on it. There wasn't any confusing language where you needed to dig deeper. The information was presented to you very clearly. So from that respect, I felt quite confident about what I was doing. And I get a sense of overriding transparency and just a general sense of honesty with how they tie in with the Crest scheme, which I place a great degree of trust in, how they have a nominee account, and they're very clear and open about how things are occurring, the fees, where there are fees. It's just very clear, very easily presented. You're not bombarded with marketing materials. You can get the information very quickly. So, you know, those three factors, they combine together to, you know, give me a sense of confidence about what I'm doing. In terms of the negatives, I suppose the first one, the biggest one for me, is the walled garden nature, the very somewhat limited availability, or the limited range. Now 1300 is different instruments to procure, is a good wide range, but I don't like the concept of being hemmed in. I'm the type of person that literally will spend many hours over a week or two deciding how to set up my pension portfolio and choosing this ETF and doing the relative comparison with that one and how does it fit in with an overall strategy. It's to be somewhat have your wings clipped in terms of what you can choose from, I would find a bit limiting, particularly when you're trying to minimize TERs that you spend, the fees that you spend with the ETF providers. In terms of availability, I speak as an investor here in Freetrade rather than an average punter who can already make use of the service. It would be better if it were available more widely. So obviously I'm sure they have plans to expand it a bit more widely. Just with these types of services, I sense that it's use it or lose it type of a thing. So they need to gain a proper critical mass. They have a huge following in the UK, 150,000 odd accounts, which is excellent. But these types of things, they're competing with other people who have a much wider scale. So they need to probably expand a bit faster and overcome that. And then I suppose the final thing is when you're executing the trade, while I have every confidence about what I'm doing, and I have every confidence that they're not trying to hammer me with additional charges based on the text that I read, it would be nice to be able to set limits on orders, just to know exactly what you're getting, because when you make smaller trades, the effect of a slight price difference here, there, everywhere, it does add up a bit more over the longer term. Now, obviously, you don't need to overcome transaction charges or fees on making a trade, but it is just something to bear in mind. So, in summary, very impressed with the service that I've seen so far, particularly for people in the UK. I think this is a great match with the ISA possibility. I'm very excited to see what they offer with this whole alpha concept. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.